everybody, and welcome back to Feeling Seen, the podcast that talks about the movies and characters that make us feel seen. And I'm so over the moon to have my guest with me today. If you haven't seen one of the best shows of the decade in Somebody Somewhere, for which my co-host is an Emmy winner as a Best Supporting Actor in Comedy, and I will add, undefeated Emmy nominee. Jeff Hiller,
That's technically true.
Jeff Hiller is 100 batting average 100% at the Emmys. You might have also read his memoir, Actress of a Certain Age. You might know him from any number of television shows that you have loved for years upon years upon years, even just most recently including the zeitgeist smashing Pluribus, the zeitgeist smashing Widow's Bay, which he is currently on. The first season just wrapped, and 30 Rock, American Horror Story, Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt, Broad City, the movie Greta, which I love, and Playing House, the television show. Jeff Hiller, what else do the people need to know about you before we get started here today?
That's more than they need to know, to be honest. I'm sure they're like, oh, we get it.
I was really excited when I decided to commit to undefeated Emmy nominee Jeff Hiller.
That it does feel like a technicality, but I'm just gonna go with it.
Listen, Susan Lucci can't say the same. Susan Lucci was out here. I remember the Emmys when she finally wins after what was it, like 17 nominations, and the man announcing shouted, "The curse is broken, Susan Lucci." And you are out here. You know how many times Annette Bening has lost specifically to Hilary Swank as Best Actress? And here you are, one for one. I was listening to on the podcast Memoir Nation, and you were discussing your book, and there was a part where you say, like, I'm like not riding in limousines. I've never even been to an award show because you had not yet won for your Emmy for the first time that you apparently attended and were nominated at. So congratulations on that. That was a big wind up about your Emmy.
That's true. It makes me think like if I ever go again, it's going to be really boring.
Well, I get like, to the what else do people need to know? I mean, how has it been, I guess, watching the unfolding experience of Widow's Bay?
My God, isn't it crazy?
Crazy.
So Katie Dippold, who created the show, is, you know how like sometimes people are like, she's a dear friend. She actually is a dear friend.
So you've known her even before her famous Babadook meme took Twitter by storm.
Yes, long before. She and I did improv together in 2002 at the UCB Theater. We were on an improv team together for 2 years, and I do remember when that Babadook thing happened too. I even know whose party she was at. Like I know Trisha.
You're like, who do you think was out of frame?
Yeah, exactly. I wasn't at the party, I will say, because she lives in LA and I live in New York. But when I saw the show, when it came to me, it's funny, I was telling someone else, like, it was a favor, and they were like, oh, that's so nice that you did that for Katie Dippold. And I was like, no, it was a favor that she gave to me to be on the show. Are you insane?
I love the assumption, though, that you were hooking up a friend. That, like, Jeff was doing a solid for a long-time creative
this
friend.
Poor person who has a show at Apple.
You were taking time out.
I guess I'll get health insurance for you. Anyways, when I saw the script, I was like, this couldn't be more Katie Dippold, because she is one of the funniest people I know, but she loves horror. She always makes me go to horror nights at Universal, like where people are just screaming at you and they have like chainsaws and stuff. It's crazy. But she's also so funny, and she's always organizing like horror movies. You go on the Friday night when it opens so that everybody goes and watches it together in the theater and stuff like that. So
that's wonderful.
Exactly like her DNA, and it came across so well. And as I was watching it, I was like, oh, this is good. And then the way people responded to it, I was like, oh wow, this like struck a chord. People are really into it.
It's so wonderful anytime you get to hear a feedback where it's like, it's so true to the creative. It's something so representative of them, because the sort of going wisdom is that It's everything by committee. The
Right.
boardrooms take over. So the notion that like you can watch something and know this person so well and read it and be like, this is so truly this individual coming through on paper, and then
Yes.
someone actually saw that and was
Yeah.
like, no, we don't want the sanded down version of Katie
Right.
Dibble. We want actually the distinct thing that makes her special within
Yeah.
this show. And it feels like just hearing that anytime, which just sounds like such like an abusive relationship dynamic with like an entire industry. Just
Right.
like, these one times where it's like, oh God, enough to keep me going kind of thing.
I
And
know.
it's wonderful to hear.
And props to Apple because I feel like, because I was just on Pluribus too, and like that was definitely, I mean, obviously Vince Gilligan has, you know, has some
Sure.
history,
Right,
some
right.
success.
But
But
the history on paper, like you get where that jumps off as it, and versus like this lesbian on her own with no community, like in the middle of the desert.
I mean, honestly, just like when I went to shoot that and they were like explaining it to me, I was like, what? How did you sell this? Like, I can't even understand this. This is so complicated. So I mean, I will say, I think that that is, it does feel like Apple is like one of the few that's like, yeah, it doesn't have to be an IP. We're going to let you just have a voice, which is so cool.
Hmm. Well, and something that you have such a moving part in Pluribus in your interface with Carol,
Oh, man.
Reese Horn, and I something I wanted to talk to you about was with your extensive training in improv and coming up through United Upright Citizens Brigade, how you I've read you talk about and I've heard you talk about like that you've had a lot of like one-off parts in television over years and years and years, and now you're really good at showing up and being like, I'm really well trained and fit to be the person on the day who's going to deliver for you. And I
Yeah.
wanted to hear how does being so versed and trained in improv lend to one having to just stand and deliver kind of out of nowhere. Like you're pulled out cold as a reliever. You're not getting warm up to, and you're like, today's my day to deliver on the spot, and there is no time to waste. And I just wanted to hear about the relationship between working and thinking on your feet and getting and having a lot of those kinds of parts.
I mean, it's exactly the same, you know. It
Mm,
is. That's what improv is too, right? You're just
yeah.
out there. There's no plan. I don't know. If people sometimes don't believe you, but there really is no plan. You just go out there, and so I think that in a way, there's something about improv. This sounds like I'm insulting improv, but it's actually such an incredible skill that has helped me so much. But it has allowed me to be imperfect.
Mm,
I don't have to be precious about things. I don't need to um like I've worked with so many actors who are incredibly skilled, who are just like focused all the time because they
yeah.
have to get it exactly right. And if they don't, they spiral.
Hmm.
And the the shooting schedule is just not made for that, especially for someone who's a guest star who is just walking in, you know.
Right.
You gotta deliver. And so I think in that sense, that has been super helpful. Also, I'm not precious about how I look or how I'm shot or
Hmm.
how I, sound or I don't. I think improv has helped a lot with like let the vanity go. This
Uh-huh.
is just who I is.
Well, I will get us to because we have a couple movies to touch on. So I'm trying to decide which one to go into first. And I think I will start with the specific character one, which is you brought first of all, The Object of My Affection from I believe it was 1998, a romantic comedy starring Jennifer Aniston and Paul Rudd, in which she plays a social worker and he plays a first grade teacher. They're both living in New York City. He is a gay man. She is a straight woman in a relationship she's not super happy in. They become dear friends. She becomes pregnant and is like, I actually want to raise the baby with you, George.
Right.
And this comes at the cost of her very New York boyfriend, Vince, who you will know as Brother Ira from
Like,
the
so not someone who would end up with Jennifer Aniston, but okay.
yeah.
Okay.
From the God, now I'm blanking on the name of the sitcom we watched every night with
Oh,
Helen Hunt and Paul Reiser, but
right. Mad About You.
Mad About You, the Brother
Yeah,
Ira from Mad
Ira.
About You. But so tell me your experience with The Object of My Affection.
So I saw it in the theater when it first came out. I
Wow.
was in college. I was in college in Seguin, Texas, at Texas Lutheran College. I
Wow.
had I had come out, but only to certain people, not to everybody. So I was like in this weird half closet, and I went to see it with like someone who used to be my romantic girlfriend, who is now
Sure.
just my girlfriend, and 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 it's exact what I saw was exactly what you described this podcast as, which is that like I saw myself. I didn't see myself actually. I saw the person I wanted to be. They
Right.
were
Okay.
living in Brooklyn. It was shot. I mean, it's like I have since lived in Brooklyn, and it is not does not look like that. But in the film, it looks gorgeous. They're coming up, it's like autumn, and they're coming up out of the subway, and they're in
Yeah.
Brooklyn Heights, and it's gorgeous lighting. And Jennifer Aniston is a social worker, but can wear these gorgeous 4-inch platform heels. Um, and I was a social work. I was planning on becoming a social worker,
Right.
and but I had also thought about maybe becoming an elementary school teacher. But the fact that, and I didn't know who Paul Rudd was at that time. I think
Mm.
I had probably seen Clueless, but I didn't think like, oh, that's the guy from Clueless. I just thought, I mean, Paul Rudd is easy on the eyes.
Yeah, yeah. You really like there's the joke of Paul Rudd that like, oh, he's a vampire, he doesn't age. And then you watch like something from the 90s and you're like, oh my God, that baby face and those sparkling eyes.
I know.
And
And
he
and he
is
was gay,
dreamy.
and he had no shame about being gay.
Hmm.
He had no it wasn't a movie about how he had to come out and tell Joan Cusack that he can't marry her.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was just a movie about this guy he wasn't completely happy in his life, but the happiness that he didn't have wasn't specifically tied to being gay.
Yeah.
And it just felt like this this hope for a future life, because I had been studying theology before that, and
Mm.
I was thinking like I'm gonna have to be like a closeted pastor or whatever, or I
Right.
wouldn't be able to be a pastor. And so like all of the gayness that all of my thoughts and feelings about being gay were flooded through this like religious aspect. And just
Hmm.
to see him, and church had nothing to do with it. I
Right.
think that's maybe why I became a social work right after college, is because I think Jennifer Aniston just seems so cool.
Yeah.
I wanted somebody to get pregnant and raise a baby with me. I thought that sounded really fun. It was like you got to be a parent, but you didn't have to, go to the adoption agency.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and watching it too, like there's something where these kinds of I feel like I feel like there was sort of a wave in the tens of like when it was like so Love Simon could be a movie where it's like a cute
Yeah,
movie about like coming out and whatnot. And I remember working at Vulture at the time. There was a sort of like derisive reaction to the treacliness of Love Simon, like oh God, another coming out story. And then
sure.
things get really bad again, and it's the Trump era, and we're like, I guess we need a treacly coming out story every now and again. But there was something about like you revisit movies from the 90s, movies like Jeffrey, which is still about like a man, in New York City in the 90s amid like the AIDS epidemic that is matriculating through his community for sure. And but it's a comedy of a man and the strange characters of his life and his neuroses as a New Yorker. And you
Yeah,
watch this movie, and there was like, you have queer cinema blazing its way through the early 90s, and Todd Haynes, confronting you
right,
and making you uncomfortable, and Greg
right.
Araki too. But there was also just
Mm,
like, there were matter of fact, cute gay movies in the 90s where
yeah,
life could feel ordinary as a
yeah,
gay in the city in a
right.
way that, like, the radicalness feels like there's nothing radical about watching it at all.
I know. It's true. It's just like a cute little rom-com. Yeah,
Yeah.
I know. And there is something that is weirdly um, it feels so like regressive, but it is sort of weirdly progressive, especially
Yeah.
with our weird backlash now. Um, yeah, it's nice, and it's also just nice to have. I mean, like you could, I'm sure. Well, you worked at Vulture. I'm sure you have all sorts of takes on it, but like you also could say like they were all white. They were all
Sure.
mask acting. They were straight actors playing these gay characters. No, everybody had 0% body fat and stuff like
Yeah.
that. So,
Everyone's got pretty privilege. Everybody's
yes,
got thin privilege,
yes,
1000%.
yes, yes. So there are some. there's some things that one could think about, but there is just something, representation matters. I think you believe that. That's why you're doing this
Yeah.
podcast. And I think that there is just something about, because for a long time, it did seem like every movie was about this gay person, queer person who is suffering, who
Yeah.
is just completely, profoundly unhappy.
Yeah,
And
I remember
usually they
I wrote a
die.
list at Vulture of lesbian movies that won't make you cry because if you're having trouble finding movies where like we don't all die at the end, like here,
Right.
public service announcement.
Do you remember that movie? Oh God, what was it? Better Than Chocolate. It was like this 90s
Yes.
lesbian movie. I was
Yes.
working at a movie theater at that time, and like, oh my God, it just made me feel like I'm a part of the community now. That movie ran almost as long as Being John Malkovich, because that's when I was working at that theater. And I was like, and I would say I would be taking tickets and I'd be like, theater one straight ahead. And they'd be like, don't you mean gaily forward?
Wait, people said that to you?
Yes,
No.
always a lesbian in her 50s.
She's like, I grew up with the children's hour. Don't you mean gaily forward? Like,
Exactly. She's like, I need to see this movie where they sing a song about Julie Christie and paint each other naked.
which really just became Portrait of a Lady on Fire so many years later.
It's so true.
Well, what so like when you what was the role of Moot? Because like the part in your memoir you talk about like came out as a gay man at one point, but you also came out as a comedian at one point, and
Yeah.
having to like admit to yourself that like this is what I want to do. I am interested in entertaining people, and this is a career. So like, what role did stories and movies play for you when you were young, winding up to somebody who would have to come to terms with wanting to be an actor?
It was hard. Um, I I always loved movies.
Mm,
And it was something I really shared with my mom, not my dad. My dad doesn't really like movies, but my mom and I would sometimes go on our own, and it
mm.
was like a special thing for us. And I love female-led movies. I got interviewed by Letterboxd one time, and it was like a complete surprise. It's like sometimes you can tell people knew it was going to happen, and they have like four brilliant ideas, and they just came to me, and I was like, "Oh!" And I just said all these like 80s movies with a powerful female lead, 80s comedies with a powerful female lead.
Actresses of a certain age.
Exactly. I just love them. And I mean, gay. Um,
Yeah.
but then it's funny that you should say that, because when I was working at that movie theater and it was like between two different social work jobs, and also it was just like you needed extra money, so I would work there on the weekends and stuff. And I chose that as like a part-time job because I wanted to see it was a landmark theater. So it
Mm,
was the art house
of
theater.
course, yes.
And um, because it was such a huge part of my adult development.
Yeah.
It was like how not just to become an actor, but also just to become culturally aware.
Yeah.
And it was film specifically. I became a big Oscars head. I knew
Mm.
every win. Like I don't really know it anymore, but like between 1997 and like 2010, I was I was like an obsessive about the Academy Awards.
It's one
And
of the great gay superpowers.
yeah, exactly.
Absolutely, yes. That's gay culture.
It's true. My superpower is atrophied, but yes, during that decade, I knew everything and was so obsessed with seeing every movie and predicting and deciding and bitching and moaning about how this movie deserved it, and of course, desperately hoping that both Glenn Close and Annette Bening would get the gold statue that they deserve.
Absolutely, yes.
I
Absolutely.
guess I'm not
My
that
devastation when
atrophied.
the wife did not win for Glenn Close.
I know, but then it's Olivia Colman, and you're like, well, I
I
don't know.
know, I know.
I
What are
love
we to
Olivia
do?
Colman.
What are we to do?
Exactly. So movies and films were a huge part of that. I used to get Entertainment Weekly, like in the mail, and I
and
would.
when it like that time, a vital
Oh my
publication.
God! I know. Mark Harris
The
on the
era of
last
Mark Harris. I
page.
was just gonna say the era of Mark Harris at Entertainment Weekly.
I know.
That was appointment
Lisa
entertainment
Schwartzbaum
journalism.
and Owen Gleiberman,
Yep.
and you would read. I would read literally from the front page to the very back page. I read every single word every single week, uh, and that was a huge. I mean, that was
Mm.
how I got. That was like my how I, because it's before the internet. So
Yeah.
you couldn't just
You
go on
had to read it
Reddit.
front to back. That was what you got. Like it wasn't, you're not gonna find it elsewhere.
I know. It's so true. It's really
Well,
true. So yeah, the movies were humongous, but I also was like obsessive about television too. I watched all sorts of television, and frankly, when I could afford it, I would go to Broadway too.
well, it was like another thing while I was watching this, a thing that will always just like make my heart skip a beat when watching a 90s movie is when inevitably someone talks about their job in publishing. And like when you meet this like this almost like the most 90s thing about this movie might actually be when Alan Alda, perpetually 65, who has like a 5-year-old daughter in this movie with Allison Janney. He is the most powerful literary agent in the world. We meet him saying he just signed Fidel Castro for his memoir. And he's like, and they might as well live in like a hedge funder's apartment in New
I
York
know.
City. And then we meet like one rogue fiance of Paul Rudd's brother, played by Steve Zahn. And she's like, I've got to get back to the magazine. And like, these people were she's making like a $500,000 goddamn dollars a year working at a magazine in
This is
1998.
back when Vogue would pay for Andre Leon Talley to take a car to White Plains, you
This is
know?
exactly. And I'm watching it like I am reminiscing. I'm like feeling melancholy for when like a gay
Especially
movie could
this.
be nice. And I'm like, oh, remember when publishing and the creative arts had money?
Oh my God. Remember when acting had money?
Remember when you could light a rom-com? It's like that, like they'd kill you for that now. Like they'd
I
kill
know.
you for lighting a movie like this
Oh
now.
my God, it's so true. It's so true. Yeah, it's like, can you make this in 12 days?
And like God, in the hustle culture around that, like it's such the double-edged sword of like being so proud of people for doing it themselves and pulling the resources together. But every time a story is romanticized about somebody making an indie movie in 15 days, that just tells every studio executive that they need to get somebody to make a movie in 15 days for no money and be like, yeah,
Exactly.
that's the story.
I know. It's so true.
I digress. I
I know.
digress. But a part of the Paul Rudd's character, part of George that I wanted to ask you about was your relationship with like aspiring toward fatherhood at one point. And I because I really liked how I've heard you talk about it, which was like really having like a powerful desire to like care for, like needing to
Hmm.
provide care for,
Hmm.
and seeing within this character like it's an unconventional story, kind of even still. And then in 1998, it's certainly like the notion of like, well, can I have it all? Like
Yeah.
I just wanted to hear with like going to your Lutheran college in a small part of Texas and
Sure.
seeing this guy and being like, wow, is does it having it all exist? And just sort of your aspiration toward that.
Well, I think, I mean, it did feel that way, and it
Mm,
felt like, there is still a possibility, because I think also the thing about how I was coming out at that time, and I know it feels like 1998. That wasn't that long ago, but it's like I can't. It was before Will and Grace, so like we didn't. I mean, just before, but still, it's
still, no,
before.
but still before.
And so like we just didn't. There was still this like idea that if you came out of the closet, you were gonna kind of. I mean, obviously not for the people who had already come out of the closet who
Sure.
were living in the cities, but for me, living in Seguin, Texas, I just felt like I have to do this because it's who I am,
Yeah.
but I am going to have a less happy life than my straight counterparts.
Right.
And there was something about this movie that was so deep to me and profound to me, because he was he was living this life that I was like, that life looks great.
Yeah.
Even the fight with the boyfriend, I'm like, you had a boyfriend?
You're fighting with Tim Daly because you guys are sleeping together and you live together.
Exactly. These two straight guys pretend that they want to kiss each other. Good for them. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, it was just so huge, and a huge part of it was because I remember at first when I saw the trailer, I was like, oh, I don't want Jennifer Aniston to be pregnant. I want her to be glamorous and
Yeah.
wearing like gowns and shit. But I remember watching the film and being like, no, it's amazing. They're redefining family.
Uh-huh.
And that was it was like oxygen,
Hmm.
because it felt like I had been drowning in this sadness of not being able to live the life that I kind of wanted to live. Now, we are what, almost 30 years later, and I ain't got no kids.
Yeah.
But I got a dog and a cat.
Well, how does that sense of like duty of care or desire of care, how does that work within your career? How do you exercise that within the art that you practice?
I mean, my on a first blush, when you ask me this question, my thought is I do like to take care of a character and make sure
Hmm.
that I'm sending it. But I'm also I like to think about myself taking care of the production as a whole. Like that is kind of what it is about like being a good guest star is like
Yeah.
I'm not naive enough or narcissistic enough to think like this production is about me getting it right. I mean,
Yeah.
even on Somebody Somewhere, where I actually did have a kind of a big role, I was
It's
completely,
truly.
yeah, I was aware that like we got to make the day.
Yeah.
And like it would be great if I could find this thing for this scene that would be the right thing. But if I can't find it, that's not right. And so that means that the night before I need to prepare and really
Mhm.
know the beats that I want to hit. And also on the day, be ready to react to my co-star and I think like a lot of young actors are sort of like, I got my first Law and Order and I have to cry, so it's going to be this incredible thing. And
Right.
they're like, it took 15 minutes and I was gone. They didn't put any makeup on me. And it's because, yeah, Olivia Benson been doing this for 30 years.
Right. They've got this
Ton of
down to an
time.
8-hour day. They are going to be home in time to their families for dinner if they are on this show.
Exactly. And so you need to show up and do it right. And that is a part of caring.
Hmm.
Um, and I mean, but beyond that, like I do feel like I'm always protecting, like I do feel like I try to protect younger actors too, and like um, giving advice, giving protection. Like sometimes, like background folks, I think are
Yeah.
sometimes preyed upon and things like that, and I've had to stand up
Hmm.
occasionally for that too. Some
Thank you for your service in that regard. I
I
like
sound like such a hero. I'm not such a hero. It's just so rampant.
no, of course. And I feel like you hear those stories and that's such an interesting thing of like knowing that it's not like you're for one to be on top of the call sheet, they have a lot of power on a set.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
they in many ways dictate like I knew somebody who was working on a big fancy Marvel show and lead actress sounds like she was really lovely to work with in every way, but she would kind of get in her head about the perfection problem that you
yeah,
mentioned and it would slow production down for hours sometimes
yeah.
if she felt like she wasn't able to get there. And she
Right.
wasn't trying to ruin anybody's day. She was trying to be the best for everybody.
Of
But it would have
course.
the inevitable catastrophic effect of ruining a shooting schedule.
Yeah.
And so, but it's folks who aren't on the top of the call sheet who will still take the responsibility of others around them for veterans among new people. Like, that is
Right.
such a difficult thing to follow through on in an industry that is so dedicated to the slavish devotion to power, to hierarchy powers.
Yeah.
And so like I really appreciate hearing that you're like, listen, I don't have the big trailer on this lot, but like I have a
Oh.
duty of care to a community around me, and I'm going to take that seriously because a lot of people don't, and that's why it's a problem that has to be intervened upon.
Yeah. I mean, when it comes to like getting the stuff done on the day, there's also the added incentive of not getting fired,
100%.
But like I'm just thinking about like there have been times when cast members who have lines are hitting on background artists and
Jesus.
like and I just always found that so disturbing and so that but the only way I know how because like I don't have the power to be like stop doing that someone
Yeah.
who's a series regular and I'm a guest star so what I just do is I just go up and pretend like I'm completely oblivious to the fact that they're hitting on
Yeah.
them and just like stand there and be like so tell me about yourself
Yeah.
where are you from
That's an ally at a bar. That is an ally at a bar, is what that is. That's the sisterhood.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of like dudes in Hollywood who are like, that guy's so annoying, but what are you gonna do?
This tall guy just walks over. He never knows what's going on. Read
Exactly.
the room, Jeff.
Exactly. And I was like, I am reading the room.
Yeah, I've read the room. I've read the book. I know how it ends, so that's why I'm walking over here.
Yeah.
Well, I would be remiss if I did not make because the time just goes so fast. But given that your memoir is called "Actors of a Certain Age," the perfect bridge to the discussion of one of the great actors of a certain age movies ever produced,
Yeah.
Steel Magnolias. As a Southern belle yourself, as someone
Belle.
a Southern belle, a celebrity. Tell me your experience with Steel Magnolias. Was it traumatizing? Was it beautiful? How did this movie enter your life? And these women. Tell me about these women.
Well, these women. Okay, so let's just go down the thing. Sally Field, Julia Roberts in like her second film.
So early.
Yeah, it was like Mystic Pizza and then this.
Yeah,
Like this was before Pretty Woman.
Yes.
Shirley MacLaine, Olympia Dukakis,
Olivia Dukakis.
Daryl Hannah, and Dolly motherfucking Parton.
I was watching. I couldn't put myself through the whole thing because it's too devastating emotionally. But I was going back and watching my favorite scenes, and I was like, how it's one of those things where it's like it almost could have been too good to be true and it imploded under the weight of
Right,
all of the charisma and so but
right.
no, it
No.
functions so perfectly every time the movie becomes the ensemble piece that it is, where they are all in the same,
Oh,
the funeral scene. I mean, it
oh my
is
God.
a
Get her. Her.
masterclass.
Sell t-shirts that say I'm hit Weezer Boudreaux.
Take a whack at Weza.
Exactly. But there's so many good lines in that. Like Dolly Parton when she's just like, well, I wear a 6, but a 7 feels so good, I buy an 8. I mean, it's just so dreamy. Um,
My good.
uh, even just like Daryl Hannah being like, "Oh, I lost my contact." I mean, every possible quote you can think of is so good. No, no, juice is better, Shelby. Juice is better. Um,
I mean, I've
I
just had the word Shelby like flying around in my head for the entirety of my life.
yeah. Okay, so there are two things about that movie. One is I saw an episode of the Phil Donahue show.
Yeah.
On the week that that came out, it had all, I think there were only 5 women because one of them was too shy. I think it was Daryl Hannah was too shy to do Donahue.
That makes sense.
And I remember also like somebody asked Sally Field why Burt Reynolds broke up with her, and my mom was like, Lord. And but they showed, Jordan, this is so crazy. They showed the scene with Olympia Dukakis doing color commentary in the men's locker room, and they showed men's butts on 9 a.m. television in San Antonio, Texas. It was mind-blowing.
How did the network not get its license pulled for that?
I have zero clue. And I remember when it came back, all the women in the audience were like, oh, and Phil Donahue goes, oh, it's just butts. We've all seen butts. And I was like, I haven't seen butts.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
but then the big thing about it, I mean, that's obviously that was pretty big too. I remembered it first. But the other big thing was Phil Donahue, Mr. Marlo Thomas,
Yeah.
said, you know, this movie, you are in the saddest part, and then you bring out something that makes you laugh from deep in your soul. And
Yeah.
there was, I could cry about it right now because I remember thinking, that's art. That's important. And also that's life. And that is how we need to live. And that's how my family lives too.
Uh-huh.
And it that's why I chose it for this, because I saw something in that when he said that. And then we went to see the movie that night because we'd
Yeah.
seen Donahue.
Was it
And
like we saw this and so we were like, we got to get tickets to Steel Magnolias?
well, we had already, once we saw the poster with all of these dames, my mom and I were like, oh, we've got to see that one. But, I was like, every single one of those women is wildly famous. And I remember us being like, that's an all-star cast. Now
Yeah.
that's
Now those are actors. Now those are actors.
And so it was really important to go to it, and then we laughed so hard. I remember the part where they had the armadillo cake, and he
Yep.
cuts it, and he says, "Have a nice piece of ass." And I remember my dad even laughed at that, and it was like they said the word ass, and it
Your
was
dad, who
so
doesn't like movies, who went to the movie with you.
with the Steel Magnolias of all of them. Uh, it became this like thing where we quoted it a lot, and it was also like a little like dirty because there you did see a butt and you did say the word ass, and and then it also just felt like the first time I saw a mature movie because I mean spoiler alert on this 40-year-old movie or whatever, but
Yeah.
Julia Roberts dies, and
The
um
last time Julia Roberts could probably die on screen contractually, honestly, like in her
got her an
career.
Oscar nomination, so it was worth it. Her first. And and I remember being so moved by that and so sad that this beautiful young woman was taken, and then like Sally Field being like, uh, she's right. My hair is like a football helmet, and I was like, I mean, I didn't have the like consciousness of it, but I was like, self-deprecation. It's so beautiful.
Mm.
It's so equalizing, and 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 then, yeah, they're in this scene. She says, I could run to Texas and back, but my daughter can't. And
Oh,
then that's right when Olympia Dukakis grabs Shirley MacLaine and says, hit her. It'll make you feel better.
I just
And
wish I
the,
could make someone feel like the hurt that I feel right now. Here she is, Hannah. Everybody in Chesapeake County will want to know.
exactly. And we all cried. I don't know if my dad did, but I did. I cried in a movie. It was probably the first movie I ever cried in, but I liked it. I
This might
liked
have been
it.
this or Beaches might have been the first movie where I realized how
Oh.
sad movies could be.
Yes, I know.
Like
But in
this
a
movie
place
is
like this,
so sad.
even heartbreak feels good.
In a place like this, I watched Steel Magnolias and it made me so sad that I
Yeah.
my association with fried green tomatoes
Mhm.
and this movie in my head they're like a two-pack. Like you could buy
Yeah.
a two-pack at Walmart
Uh-huh.
of these movies.
Uh-huh.
And Steel Magnolias was so sad. I avoided fried green tomatoes till last year because I was like, I refuse to feel from another movie how Steel Magnolias made me feel. Turns
I,
out fried green tomatoes is heartwarming and wonderful and uplifting.
I
So
don't really think of it sad.
no, it's not. I was like, oh my God. And it's once I learned it was lesbians, I was like, I was definitely right all along about this movie. Like, this is about lesbians being murdered in the South. Totally not. Wonderful,
No, it's about being
uplifting.
older and having better insurance.
Yeah, it's about Kathy Bates coming into her power in the present and these women, these lesbians, making biscuits together in the past. And it's a really
Uh-huh.
wonderful, happy story for the most part.
And because it wasn't explicitly lesbian. I mean, it was like you didn't even have to
Pretty,
squint.
yeah,
But
yeah,
it didn't come right out and be like, we're having sex.
yeah, yeah.
But because I remember watching it and being like a little like, I don't know, this makes me feel because I was still like closeted and stuff. So it was like it was hard. That actually was a harder movie for me to watch than Steel Magnolias, if you can even imagine.
No, that makes total sense. That was I like the reason the movie Gia again around this era
Oh God, Gia.
devastated me so badly because
Yeah.
well, Angelina Jolie I think is the most affecting performer in
Oh,
perhaps the history of screen,
I mean,
but
and
like
she the one actor where you're like, oh, you could be a supermodel.
yeah, yeah, 1000%. Like oh, this fit. Like we're not
And you could
forcing
do
this in.
heroin. I think you would do heroin.
Yeah, I think you probably came real close. Like everything about like too wild to was like too beautiful to
Yeah.
die, too wild to live. I think is the
Yeah.
tagline of that movie.
Yes.
The number of times I've almost bought a $600 Italian poster of Gia that for some reason they got a theatrical release of that movie in Italy and we didn't hear. Yeah, it's come so close so many times. But the like watching that like because she was like my wife is in the other room like that's how that story turned out and but like her relationship with Elizabeth Mitchell, which is why Elizabeth Mitchell remains a goddess to me to this day. I was like no story could ever be more profoundly affecting and I simply don't know why. It's like because I'm watching this beautiful lesbian in a romance she can't have and I'm 10 and I'm like surely there's no specific reason why I feel so attached to this story. Agony.
Agony, agony. And she dies. I just saw High Art and I was like, oh, right, she died. I just saw it again. I was like, oh, right, she dies. I was like,
Jesus. In like the saddest way, and that like, and then her spirit walks beautifully wrapped in a sheet through the AIDS ward of a hospital in the 19 fucking 80s, early 90s. Boy, the 90s knew how to kill a beautiful actress.
it's really true.
What? Okay, so I with your memoir title, Actors of a Certain Age, what is it? I mean, the queer culture, as you said, the Oscar encyclopedic knowledge,
Right,
even if it's gotten rusty,
right.
what is the core appeal in the queer experience? If the gay man's experience of the actors of a certain age, why?
I've asked myself this too, and I've heard other theories that it's like these women are strong and they live
Right.
in a man's world where people tell them, that they can't, and they still do. Um, and I don't know. For me, I grew up like super, super girlish and
Mm,
very obviously gay, and the only people who were nice to me were the women and the girls in school. I
yeah.
mean, some of them weren't, but many of them were, and sometimes it would even be the really glamorous popular girl. And I think like even just like as a kid having it filtered that the only celebrity who's doing anything about the AIDS epidemic is Elizabeth Taylor.
Yep.
And how I don't know, there's just I I didn't even know that we were all supposed to be obsessed with Judy Garland and Barbara Streisand, but like I knew they were like strong and powerful and I don't know. I can't even really define it, but I do think that there's just something on a gut level
Hmm.
where you're like, you'd be nice to me. You understand me.
Hmm. You'd be
And
nice to me.
I don't know that, Robert Mitchum would be.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know why I'm calling out poor Robert Mitchum, but
Yeah. I don't know. He feels like a perfect complement to the Liz Taylor conversation.
okay, good.
Well, I guess the last thing I wanted to bring up with you is something I just like. It's like it's kind of tangential from what we've been saying, but just something I wanted to make sure to bring up before letting you go, which is that like the notion of a certain age and how you've talked about like the crisis spiral at 40, where you were
Mm,
like God, I feel it, I know it in that sense of like coming into somebody somewhere and that feeling leading up to it of like I'm good at my job and I'm good at doing these parts where I come in and I knock it out of the park as a guest star, as a guest character. But like I have so much more to give. And
yeah.
just feeling like being rebuffed by circumstances in an industry that like isn't super empathetic to like or like, hey, it's your turn, kiddo. Like
Right.
I wanted to hear about that notion of getting to raise your own bar at a certain age and
Mm.
seeing the example of your success at the evolving stages of your career. And I just wanted to hear you talk about that.
Well, it's you say something when you were saying like I've done all these like guest stars or whatever. It did. I think I grew up super Christian, and I think I really believed in this world that was fair.
Yeah.
And like I had put in my time, and the fairness. It should be like it was like in high school. If you were in the chorus for the first 3 years, they had to give you a part in your senior year.
That's right.
And that's the only reason I got a part in my senior year is I had done the chorus 3 years pre. And I think when I hit 40 and it was becoming clear that show business ain't fair, and
Yeah.
life isn't fair,
Sure.
it was I was angry and I was sad and I was embarrassed.
Hmm.
And I also was like, okay, give this up. This is this is embarrassing. This is
Yeah.
continuing to be embarrassing that you are continuing to have this dream. It felt very much, I always say this, it felt very much like the people at the beginning of American Idol, the ones who were like, things so good. And then they like screech. And
Yeah.
everybody's like, I can't believe they think they're good. And
Yeah.
I did start to think like, oh, maybe I thought I'm good, but I'm not good.
God.
And so when somebody somewhere came along, it felt um, both, I can't believe this is happening, and also, fucking finally, this is happening.
God, isn't that just the craziest feeling of like, oh my gosh, I'm so lucky. And then like, you sons of bitches are just now? Now?
Exactly. Right. And also, um, I had a lot of pride because I was like, I'm doing this well, and I
Yeah.
know that I'm doing this well, and so that meant a lot to me,
Mm.
and it was also I was doing it with Bridget Everett, who had a similar uh, rise,
Hmm.
where also incredibly talented, also not fully respected
Hmm.
until she made her own path.
Hmm.
Also Murray Hill, also Mary Catherine Garrison, Tim Bagley, Mike Haggerty, all of these people who were so talented, but because they don't fit into this cookie cutter mold of Hollywood,
Yeah.
haven't been able to share their incredible talents. And so it felt very, it felt like this individual achievement, but also this communal one.
Well, I cried within the first 5 minutes of having Bridget Everett on this show. And now I am crying as I am entering my final moments of talking to you on this show. And that was
Aw,
I so appreciate you coming on and taking the time to
no.
talk to us on the show. I am just so in awe of your career, and I think the way you express yourself and the way that you talk about your perspective and experiences is rare and bold. And so I'm really grateful for that. And again,
Thank
you're
you.
also just incredibly entertaining. And to just kiki about women of a certain age and Olympia Dukakis is a gift on any day, let
I
alone
did.
landing a gem on the podcast.
Do you know Drew Droege, the
Yes.
comedian Drew
Yes.
Droege? He wrote this incredible play called Bright Colors and Bold Patterns, and I replaced him off Broadway. And at one point, he talks about, I think he's talking about Moonstruck or whatever, but the character just turns to the audience and goes, Olympia Dukakis! And he just screams it at the top of his lungs. And I really appreciate Drew Droge's brilliance in writing that.
I was once watching, and now I'm just vamping, but I was once watching Katya do an interview for a documentary, Drag Queen Katya, talking so adoringly about David Lynch and Mulholland Drive, and at one point just interrupted herself to just go, Ann Miller, and then kept talking.
But that is true. Didn't you say the same thing? Ann Miller.
Ann Miller. They almost had to remove me from set because I could not stop laughing. And every once in a while to myself, I will just think, Ann Miller,
Oh
because
God,
that's all it
Katya is
takes.
so
It's like
good.
men just saying obscure baseball players to each other from the 1970s. The same
What
thing.
about Katya and Hacks this season? How funny was that?
Yeah.
That was so good. Anyway,
Anyway, thank you so much, Jeff, for
thank
sharing
you,
your time with
Jordan.
us today. I truly appreciate it, and you very
Oh, I'm
much.
so glad. Thank you for having me. I
Of
enjoyed it.
course.
Maximum Fun.
A worker-owned network
of artist-owned shows.
Supported
directly
by you.